The really important interactions in teaching is not the information that flows from the teacher out to the student, but what comes from the student back to the teacher and what the teacher does with that information.
Well, the Summer Academies were really intended to address a couple of issues for teachers. One is, particularly at the elementary level, teachers often have a really limited preparation in science. So their content knowledge is rather lean and often insufficient for what's expected of them in teaching their children. And then in elementary, but especially as you move up into the secondary folks may have more content knowledge, but have less experience with pedagogy and instructional strategies that are emerging out of the research from what we know about how people learn. So these immersion and intensive experiences gave us a chance for teachers to come together as adult learners, not thinking about teaching their children, but just as learners, and get a chance to really focus on deepening their own content knowledge, and doing so in a setting that both modeled the kind of instructional strategies that we would advocate for implementing into their own courses, but also making that explicit and talking about it so they would develop their understanding of that. At the same time, those immersion experiences allowed us to bring our faculty into this work because they too are thinking about their own teaching and their own instruction. So they were able to use the academies as a laboratory for themselves to really practice the kind of instruction that we were helping our teachers learn, to make that transparent to the teachers and get feedback from them, so that together we were all really thinking and learning together about about instruction, effective instruction in the light of research.
Many of our elementary level teachers don't have a very strong science background, and many of them feel a little uncomfortable teaching science because they feel like they don't have the background that they need. I think that a lot of that is because of how science is taught at the university level. It's taught as a collection of facts rather than as a process. And so I think a lot of people think that, oh, I don't know all the facts, how am I going to answer my students' questions? When really just helping your students answer their own questions is really what you need to do. So part of the Summer Academy is that they go through a very intensive content 2 weeks of learning some new content, and in a way that is pedagogically sound. So we don't get up in front of them and lecture and tell them about meiosis or mitosis or the Krebs cycle or whatever. They do activities, they construct their understanding, they ask each other questions, they answer each other's questions, they think about their own thinking. So it's a very constructed curriculum that we use.
And also by taking the time, taking 2 solid weeks in the summer for folks to come to campus, the people from out of town stayed in the dorms. It's nice of them, and we allowed folks to really interact intensively over a longer period of time. So it established real relationships, not just between the faculty and the teachers, but among teachers who sometimes even taught in the same buildings, but had been isolated just because of their schedule, and so hadn't had a chance to really get to know each other, to learn to work together. So a big part of the work in the academy was, besides teaching science content, was to build these relationships and establish a collaborative environment that we continue to build on. So part of the design of the whole program was, from the very beginning, to bring teachers from the field in to work with us every day. So we hired 6 teachers every year for 1 year to leave the classroom and come in, spend the time with us, and then hopefully at the end of that year to go back to the classroom. And partly it was because we had so much work to do that we needed the help, and we thought this would be a great experience for teachers, and partly because we needed people who had the expertise from the field, who knew how to interface with their peers, who could go out into the schools, be credible in terms of being one of a peer among others, and work with the teacher leaders in the buildings.